Hello and welcome to another episode of the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. This is John Jantz, and my guest today is Karrie Sanderson. She's the Chief Marketing Officer at Typeform, leading brand strategy, advertising, PR, internal communications, and DEI efforts, as well as overseeing the internal creative studios. So, Karrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here, John.
So that's a lot in a CMO's job, particularly diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm kind of curious how that landed in the CMO job.
Right. So I've been at Typeform about a year, and one of the reasons why I joined Typeform was that early on, a lot of times startups don't think about that until later.
Sure.
Like, hey, let's get this business going, and then let go.
Right.
And in speaking with the leadership team, they were very upfront in the very beginning about how they want that to be a part of everything they do from day one. And we live it. And so starting up the comms, PR function, we're at that stage and really assigning someone and really thinking through how we embed it truly into our marketing motions, our internal culture has been really important. So that sits with my team, and I've got someone who's dedicated to it. And we're in the middle of planning right now, and we are keeping that front and center as we think through our plans.
So another aspect on in your bio too that I think a lot of people who know Typeform certainly know about its core functionality, but I'm curious, what's the internal creative studio? Is that a product or is that just part of your own marketing?
Yeah, this is the marketing team. So we have a phenomenal studio team, and part of why people know Typeform is the fact that we really did change the game in how you show up in the world and how you can show up as a brand. And so a lot of that's been driven by just the brand expression ourselves. We can't expect our customers to know how to do that if we aren't doing that ourselves. So we've got an in-house team that really cares for and leads our brand expression across all dimensions, product, marketing, other things as well.
And we can get into the specifics, but I mean, that design aspect has really been a key differentiator for Typeform, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And it was really our founder, David, and it was really about there has to be this better way, right? As we get into this digital world and so much of our interactions are online, it just was feeling so one way. It's like, why can't we make this more back and forth, more human feeling? And it's built into the actual design of the product. And when you do it that way, then it makes it easier to express it both for ourselves, but also let our customers express themselves that way.
So as a CMO, how do you look at the customer journey, at Typeform? I mean, a lot of people would say, well, it's a SaaS online form product. I mean, there's one way to do it, right? How do you look at the customer journey? I'm guessing maybe a little more holistically.
Yeah. So for me, it's about the mindset of customers. We're thinking it through. When I first joined, we spent a lot of time talking about, what is the promise of Typeform? What is the brand? And when we think about that journey, and this is okay, it's no judgment, but there are going to be some customers or potential customers, like the TAM is still huge. So we have a lot more potential customers than we do with 135,000 customers, but it's people who care about that experience, right? If you're moving out of brick and mortar into online, and more businesses, whether you're B2B or you're B2C, are realizing that digital is a primary channel or at least equal. And so if you care about that experience, then what we're trying to do with that journey of a customer who works with us is find those who are trying to lean in and provide a differentiated experience to their customers, not just at that first digital touch, but every touch along the way. And the way that Typeform is designed is to do that, is to make it feel, two-way. It's to build that trust. And it has inherent value for the person filling out the form because they feel like, oh, they really want my opinion and they took care about this experience, and it builds that trust. They're more likely to fill out the forms. They're more likely to have a positive brand impression. And then for us as Typeform, it's amazing because people fill out a Typeform and wow, what was that? And then they come check us out. And then hey, so we have a pretty good viral product-led growth experience as well for us internally.
Yeah, and if you're listening and you have not experienced Typeform, I mean, it really feels more like a conversation. It's like, hey, let's get to know each other. What's your name? Then it goes to the next field, and it's like, well, how are you feeling today? I mean, it really, obviously you can make it do whatever you want it to do, but I think on its surface, it feels much more conversational. How do you, I think people that get it, go, wow, that was a better experience. But do you often fight kind of the idea that people are like, it's just a form, I need the data, So, I mean, and again, maybe that's not your customer, or do you feel like that's a fight you can win?
Well, it's interesting. It's part of the evolution of Typeform. And we're a 10-year-old company, and we have Typeform as our primary product. We have also another product called Video Ask, which is like a video version of that back and forth conversation, which is great for asynchronous when you want video.
Yeah.
But we're in this, that's part of what I'm undertaking as CMO, and we're looking at is how do we get people thinking about it, not just as a form, one-time use case and gone, but that embedding within a lead gen motion, say for B2C or with B2B, or within a motion for like customer, education and helping them select the right product for B2C. So we're definitely changing our language a little bit, as opposed to like, we're a form, we're a survey. It's like, no, we're a way to humanize your brand. We're a way to humanize your business, bring some humanity back to your digital experience. So we are in the middle of kind of revamping and up-leveling and kind of expanding what people think of us, and just getting started. But there are many customers who've already found us that way and use us that way.
Yeah. And I think also you start trying to expand the use cases, right? I think a lot of people think of a form as, oh, that's lead capture.
Yeah.
Is we're talking about the customer journey. It's like, that's where they got to know us, and now they're starting to trust us, so they're going to give us their name and email. But I see people using your forms in onboarding, in, maybe even prep for a sales call, in trying to get, specs for, how to quote, so, I mean, I think you really can use it all the way. I think people should expand how they're thinking about using this form of data collection, I guess, through the whole customer journey.
Yeah, and that's actually right. Like, we do see that primary is either like
Right.
somebody has a research project, or they need to do lead gen, lead capture. But the opportunity is to provide that same sort of human experience at every digital touch point, because customers they're fickle and they expect a good experience all along the way. So we do integrate with a lot of the common MarTech stack. And so we're able to be that touch point along the way, whether it's lead gen or research or onboarding or education. And also for employees, actually some of our larger customers use us both for employee, use cases, as well as for their customers.
So would you go as far as saying a form experience could be a part of your culture?
Yes, absolutely. If you do it right, I mean, we've seen so much creativity of folks using us for things that are really educational, like embedding videos and, quizzes, or,
Right.
Things that you can embed your own brand, or you can pick from whatever we have. It's a way to show up. And most folks don't actually realize it's a form. It's an experience, and you can capture whatever you need to capture.
If somebody was, just the typical sort of sales kind of questions, like, what's the key difference between yours and X? How do you feel like, what do you feel like is your core differentiator?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's embedded into literally the DNA of the product, which is it was built to build that trust, to build that conversation. So just even the setup of it, for the experience that you're building for whoever's filling out the form, it can have conditional logic. So depending upon what somebody chooses, you can take them down different paths, all those types of things. But it's that conversational, one at a time questions that really work well and build that trust. And so the differentiation is, and we know this from data, not only from ourselves, but we hear it from customers, when they switch to Typeform, they get much higher response rates. They get better qualitative
Completion.
feedback along the way. A lot of folks are using us as part of the lead gen process right now to ask people, how did you hear about us? And because they're providing it via Typeform, people are more likely to fill it out, and they get richer information. But the other thing too that's differentiating is not just for the respondent, the person who fills out the form, but for the creator. Like, it's so easy to build. I mean, it's almost like a block, drop and load. So because a lot of our customers are small businesses, you don't have an IT department. So you want to be able to easily set it up. You want to be able to do this on your own if you're small and you have many hats that you wear, or if you're in a big company, you don't have time. So we spend as much time focusing on the person we call the creator, the person who has to build the forms, connect the forms into their MarTech stack. That's also part of our DNA, is building in that to be a great experience, because if it's hard to use, it doesn't matter how great it is on the website sometimes. And then the business value, of course. So you try to pay equal attention to both of those on both sides of the software, so we show up well no matter how you're interacting with Typeform.
I remember the first, probably 10 years ago, the first time I came across Typeform, and most people probably had this reaction, wow, that's different. Do you ever fight the urge to say, we have to be different again? I mean, because everybody knows what a Typeform form is, right? You encounter one and you know almost immediately that that's what you've encountered.
Yeah.
Do you fight that urge sometimes?
I don't think it's necessarily fight the urge to be different again. It's just more, are we constantly pushing the boundaries? We have design principles that we live by, by being bold and pushing the envelope and being expected, both again, not only in how the product shows up to the customers, but how we show up with the people who have to build it. So it's part of our DNA that we are design led and data informed. Sure, we do A/B tests, or we do those kind of things, but I think when you think about the human experience first and you keep that first, then we can develop the best product, because that's what we're telling our customers that we're doing for them. So if we want them to be able to humanize their customer experience, we should be walking the talk. And who you are on the inside is what you show on the outside. So it would be easy to coast and rest, but we are a fairly restless bunch about innovating.
In terms of your own marketing for the firm, the typical SaaS acquisition model of, users, new users or trial users, that's all that matters. And so most of the advertising, most of the messaging is about, come try this for $1 for free, that kind of messaging. I'm seeing more and more SaaS companies, particularly more and more that have a core difference, are doing more what we might have called brand advertising for user acquisition. Where do you stand on your messaging, for client acquisition?
Yeah. Well, for me, my background is very heavy in brand. And so I've, worked in brand roles at some of the, big players, Coke, Starbucks, some of those ones. So brand is like just inherently in my DNA. And I think it's a matter of time frames, right? There is absolutely a need and a place for new business development, the typical demand gen motions, to kind of Google search and all the other things that you might be doing. But if you don't invest in brand, you're hurting yourself in the long run, because it takes time, and especially today, where we're going to be able to rely less and less on that cookie data and all those other things. Like if you aren't clear what you stand for, and people can't have a positive experience and know who you are, it's going to be really tough to stand out. You will really get lost in that sea of sameness. So we have invested in brand, and we are doing work, putting media out there, doing things like even this podcast, right? Like, how do we show up as understanding that people need to know who you are as a company. People need to understand what you stand for. They need to know broader business value, where you fit in their ecosystem. Those are motions that you should be putting out there. They pay off in the long term, and they create buyers down the road.
Yeah.
Not everybody's ready to buy right now. But when they are, if you've created a good impression, and if they've had a good positive experience with you, or they've learned something from you along the way, or you provided some ungated content that they used and they went away and they didn't buy, it's a great way to kind of create customers of the future, and then give your current customers confidence that they made the right choice in sticking with you in the first place.
Well, and I think your product certainly has a playful, approachable, kind of brand already. Yeah. So obviously I'm sure you lean into that, that aspect, don't you, with your branding from a marketing standpoint?
Yeah, we did a little bit of spring, and we're doing some now, a campaign about hello, right? And it's talking about, and we use some illustration animation in the market. We got phenomenal, just views even of the video. People wanted to go watch the video on YouTube just to see what it was about. And it wasn't, didn't have a CTA that said, sign up now. It was just, what if it was different? What if you were giving your customers a different experience online? What if you're saying hello and just starting a conversation every time you talk with them, every time you interact with them digitally? It's possible. And that's part of what we're doing, right? So we're starting up some PR motions that are doing really well, and executive communications, things that are usually a little bit, make people nervous, because you can't get straight to the cost of acquisition or the LTV. But, I've been marketing for a long time, and I remember the days when we didn't have all that data. You have to think about, if you keep your customer front and center, and you're really thinking about their experience, and you're putting yourself into their shoes, you're talking to customers regularly, what is working, what is not, you can come up with the things that you know are going to work for you if you're listening to them. And it doesn't always have to be an A/B test.
So let me address one of my pet peeves, and I'm curious how you're advising. If you were advising a form builder, what would you advise them to, what should the experience be as soon as I hit submit?
But after you hit submit,
Yeah, so I'm done filling out the form. Oh, here, let me tee up the pet peeve. I
yes,
hate forms that I have no idea what happened. Did it go
yes,
anywhere? Are you going to
yes,
do anything? Is
yes.
there anybody out there? So what are some best practices, or not even best practices, better practices for, for making somebody feel like the experience is continuing after
Mhm.
I've submitted the
Yeah.
data?
Well, again, it depends upon where in that funnel you are, right? But I think some kind of a confirmation that it's been submitted is standard and it's built into
Sure.
Typeform, of course. But then you can also offer, when somebody builds a Typeform, they can put as many pages as they want after that submit. So you can say,
Yeah.
somebody will follow up with you. Here's more information. You can send it to websites. You can do different things. I think that's an interesting pet peeve. I just learned something from you that I'm going to be thinking about a little bit more about best practices of what to do. You do want to know, did it go through? I do know that I don't like it when I submit a form and I go straight to some marketing page about something that, like, it doesn't connect,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Connect. But the experience is interesting. We don't, require any field. It's totally up to the Typeform person. So if they want to make it anonymous, they can. If they want to ask for emails, they can. So it really is up to the business
Yeah.
to decide.
Okay,
So
well, I will give you my
okay.
my take, and again, you're right. It depends on where this is
I'd
in
love to hear
the
what you think.
process. But particularly somebody that's just now, maybe for the first time, requesting some information from you. I love it to go to a video of a 1 minute expression of how thrilled you are to meet them, or how thrilled
Yeah.
you are that you're interested in this content, and here's exactly what's going to happen next. To me,
Yeah.
that is just it's a great way for them to continue to build, for you to continue to build trust, which is really,
Mhm.
in many stages of the journey, that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. One of the things that probably why I wasn't visualizing what you were asking is that you can do that up front in Typeform. You can
Yeah, yeah.
add that in at the very beginning, along, hey,
Right.
this next question is all about this. Here's a
Oh,
short
yeah.
video you can watch before you answer it if you'd like. So the way that you can embed it, it is more like a conversation. So,
Yeah.
or it can be just a straight up form if that's what you want,
Yeah.
with your
Yeah.
logo and branding and some cool pictures.
Well, and I love some that I've encountered where, people are clearly in some ways making fun of the experience that we all go through now,
Mhm.
and really kind of making very light about,
Yeah,
now I'm going to ask you for all this, personal information. And
yeah.
I think the more you can do that, actually, I'm sure your research would show this as well. The more responses you're going to get, because people are like, this is not a form. This is, this
It's
is fun.
true. The other thing that's super interesting that we find out is brands are different than they
Yeah.
were 10 years ago or 15 years ago. 15 years ago or longer, when you had a brand and you had the messaging, it was a one way. You were like, here's what I want you to learn about me. And you would just put it out there.
Yeah.
The consumers today, because everything is digital, they really expect it to be a two-way conversation. They want to give their input and they want to see that you're hearing them, whether that's through a social channel or through a form or whatever that is. And you can only get that, is it that feedback is such a gift if you're running a company or you're running a marketing department, because there's signal in there about what you're doing well. There's signal in there about what you may need to improve, maybe what competitors are doing well. And if you listen to it, your
Mm,
customer becomes a part of
yeah.
evolving the brand and they feel more vested, like, oh, this brand is changing along with the input I'm giving them. They get more loyal, they're more likely to recommend.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the stages you were talking about for what you talk about, like buy, repeat, refer, right? If they feel heard, if they feel like that you're evolving along with them, and if you aren't giving them an experience to give that feedback along the way that feels human, it's a lot harder to get that
Yeah.
information.
So, so let's talk about surveys, and then
Yeah.
we'll probably be out of time. But a lot of times forms, people will slug through them because I want the thing on the other. So sometimes we'll do that. Surveys, a lot of times it's like, nah, I'm doing you a favor, to fill out this survey. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you've found that make Typeform surveys more enjoyable, if that's the right way to say
Mhm.
that, or at least more completable?
Yeah. Again, it's the way that you can set it up, right? So there's plenty of room to put a video element in and give
Yeah.
context and say, hey, this next question is about this, or to show a visual, or to say you're this far along, to skip questions easily if based on their answer. So nothing worse than taking a survey where you're like, yep, A and A,
Right.
the answers above. Like, no, you can skip all that behind the scenes. The creator can set it up. And to your point, at the end, what happens next is a good thing to
Yeah.
do. And then, surveys are tricky because it depends upon how long they are. There's best practices and that kind of thing. But putting yourself in the customer's shoes, whether it's a form, a survey, a lead gen, anytime you do that, an employee, thing will inform how you build it.
There's an interesting, I'm sure you're familiar with SurveyMonkey, of course, and there's an interesting attribute that they have that I've always find puzzling. Not puzzling, but I'm not sure what I find. But you build a survey, and as you get ready to publish it, it tells you about 50% of the people will fill this out. And I'm like, what are they? Obviously they're based if you ask a bunch of demographic questions or if it's too long or something like that. But I always find that interesting that they can calculate that kind of on the spot. But obviously it's a tool meant to help you build a better survey, I guess.
Right.
But,
right. Yeah, there's definitely, depending upon what it's for. But again, I would say for that form, maybe it's part of it's just a format. You have a wall of questions, you don't know where they end. I would maybe leave too.
Yeah. So what's anything on the horizon for Typeform that you want to tell my audience about that you guys are working on?
Yeah, we're always innovating with Typeform, which is great. One thing that we just released, which has been a very popular request, but something that we wanted to make sure we got it right, is something called brand kits, which is essentially, especially for some of our customers who across their organization, they have different people using Typeform, and you want it to all stay on brand. So you can make sure everybody's using the right logo. You can make sure there's the visuals and graphics and that, so people can use the form any way they want, the Typeform any way they want, but within their branding, which is nice. And we also have a product called Video Ask, which is phenomenal. It's more of a back and forth kind of video async way that a lot of folks use for customer service. We have a lot of realtors using it, but it's a way to get that even more personal one-to-one feedback in a video way, which is fantastic. And people can also respond via text. But that's a product that we launched not that long ago, and it's really gaining some traction and an exciting thing.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Karrie, I really appreciate you taking time to stop by the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. I always invite people to tell, if people want to connect with you, obviously it's typeform.com for the company, but if you want to invite people to connect with you anywhere in particular.
Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely my preferred social channel. So Karrie Sanderson, I'm just at LinkedIn. You'll be able to find me easily. I would love to hear from folks. And it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you inviting me onto the podcast. Thank you.
Well, hopefully we will run into you one of these days out there on the road in real life as well.
Yes, in real life would be good. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks,
Thank
Karrie.
you so much, John. Thank you.